Welcome and blessings abundantly to the Abundance Universe podcast. Here we are today on another exciting episode. I'm here with my good friend, great friend, new friend, but feels like an old friend. And I know you all know what we mean when we say that. I'm sure everybody has somebody you've met or interacted with that feels like that. Met Kyle a couple weeks ago, but feels like we've known each other for a long time. It's my friend Kyle Kemper. Kyle, welcome to the Abundance Universe podcast. How are you today?
I'm fantastic, Bijan. It's one of the best days ever.
I like that. I like that a lot. I feel the same way. I'm very aligned with that energy. And I like to speak abundance and positivity and prosperity into the day. It's a skill I had to learn. Wasn't always that way. But ever since I've been doing it, things just keep getting better and better and better and better and better. And I speak that into the day as well. Well, I'm really excited to talk to you today. You're a very accomplished man of many talents and man of many blessings. And you do a lot of things. So I'm excited to get into what you do, who you are, but more importantly, I'm excited to get into your why and why you do what you do. I feel like that's really important. And tap into the source of your abundance because you are an abundant man. So just welcome to the space and thank you for blessing me with your time. You told me earlier you were taking care of business today and running some errands and things, but I really appreciate you making it possible to chat with me. And I want to get started today just talking a little bit about who you are and what you do. And then we can get into like your reason for being, but maybe give us a little bit of background and just a quick story on kind of where you came from, because I think it's always interesting to get to know where people are and how they got to where they are from where they came from. It's always inspirational as well. So tell us about you.
All right. Well, thank you for creating this space again. And so my name is Kyle James Joachim Kemper. I'm born to Fried Kemper and Margaret Sinclair Trudeau Kemper. I was born in Ottawa, Canada. I'm a Canadian citizen, but am now in the States and in the process of becoming an American permanent resident, potentially on the path to full citizenship. We shall see.
Awesome.
Um, I've always kind of had a tilt towards creation and solving problems and solving solutions. And I've got a very deep background of experience across many different industries. My father was in real estate, and my mother was just my mom kind of growing up, but she had an interesting life before. She was married to Pierre Trudeau, who was the Prime Minister of Canada for 16 years, and had 3 sons with him, Justin, Sasha, and Michelle. And so they were always my older brothers, like 10 to 14 years older. So I learned an incredible amount from them. They're all very different personalities and wonderful in their own ways. And, I was always kind of had a focus and leaning towards business and entrepreneurship and creation and building things. I went to university on the east coast of Canada in a city called Halifax, a university called Dalhousie University, and studied business and philosophy and found my way into law school for one class, which was really interesting. And when a lot of students were my colleagues, I guess you could call them, were looking towards like finance and getting like banker jobs, I was more in the marketing and entrepreneurship side of things and wanting to create. And ultimately a lot of them like focused on their path, and they've all gone into that world, and I've focused on my path and went into my world. Right after university, I worked in venture capital, and so I ended up being in the finance side of it and learning all about venture capital and how the process works. And the reality of the situation. Did that for about 6 months, and then ended up starting working with some entrepreneurs and building mobile apps and developing software solutions, and did that for about 4 years. And that took me down to California on great journeys all around, kind of pitching and conferences. And after 4 years of doing that, I was a little bit kind of burnt out of it, and didn't have the success that I'd hoped. There had been a lot of lessons learned. And my family also had some restaurants in Ottawa, Canada, I uh, where I chose to become a server and a bartender. And I absolutely loved that. And I did that for 5 years. And it was amazing because you're seeing all these Ottawa is the capital of Canada, and the restaurant that I worked was right downtown, and it was a brew pub. So it's very a very great meeting place for people of all different backgrounds. So we had the full gamut of people, from the politicians, to the homies on the streets, coming in, and everything in between. And one night when I was there, some guy walked into the bar and started talking all about Bitcoin. And I'd been really interested in Bitcoin, and had years before had become aware of the fractional reserve central banking system and had negative views around it, and was looking for solutions. And when I saw Bitcoin, initially kind of dismissed it, didn't really understand it. But this was in 2013, and when this guy walked in, and he just was able to answer all my questions and really kind of lit the lamp for me around Bitcoin. And I haven't looked back since then. So, we're 10 years now into Bitcoin and blockchain and crypto and DAOs and NFT and decentralized thinking full time. And it's been an absolutely blessed journey that's taken me all over the world, from the halls of Davos to the streets of LA, and again, everything in between. And I'm very grateful for it. And part of the kind of ethos of it has just been say yes and kind of throw yourself out to things, and engage with other creators that are looking to solve big problems. Over the course of this 10 years, I ran the Blockchain Association of Canada, which was an industry association looking at how Bitcoin and blockchain technology will affect both government but also industries. And we were kind of, I were educators and ambassadors for the technology to existing industries. So was fortunate to spend a lot of quality time with some of the leading think tanks in Canada, as well as like the IBM Advanced Studies group, and different groups, and looking at design thinking, and how do we truly kind of build new systems that kind of make the existing ones obsolete. And over the course of this journey, there's been just an immense amount of learning. And one of my favorite learnings has been that of those of Buckminster Fuller, which the quote that I just mentioned, which is like, can't change something by fighting it. To truly change something, build a new model that makes the existing one obsolete. And I feel like now more than ever, as we're transitioning from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, that it's time for new systems and new models. And so that's kind of where we are. And this
I
is
like
this is
that.
my journey. And I got this Kennedy hat today, and I think this is also very reflective because having been in politics and been surrounded by a lot of politics and been disillusioned by a lot of politics, when someone shows great courage and stands up and speaks truth to power, that gets me a little bit excited. And so yeah, I'm kind of all in right now on RFK Jr., but I'm not putting everything on it, because I also believe in the future's new models and new systems, and looking at DAOs and decentralization and new models of governance. And so that's a little bit about me.
I absolutely love it all. That's
Oh.
awesome. And you're definitely involved in a lot of things that I'm also aligned with and involved with and interested in. Been in crypto since 2017, just investing and just interested, and have been making NFTs since 2021. like late 2021. And it's been so exciting to see the technological advancement and what it's been able to create in terms of opportunity for, as you mentioned, these new models in every industry and arena and facet of life, I feel like. So really excited to hear about that. What was when this person came into the restaurant back in, I think you said maybe 2013 or so, 10 years ago, what was it that got you to take action on the idea? Because we hear about stuff all the time, but the things we decide to take action about or have an intuition about, there's usually things that cause that and inspire that action. So what was it that caused you to actually go in on it instead of just writing it off?
Well, I think it was asking questions and and being satisfied with the answers and just continuing to ask more questions until I was like, I'm sold. And I believe in this and I see, I see the light. I had my aha moment. And it took a long time for that aha moment to occur too. Like I first saw Bitcoin in March of 2010. Like it was 3 months old, and I was kind of studying it while we were rendering video and building some stuff for the app company that we were working with, and just dismissed it at that very first time. But then, it's a matter of impressions, like anything else, and these later impressions. I mean, for me, later, still, most people had never heard of it at all. But when this man, started talking and having really good answers and really helping trigger that light bulb moment, then I was like, okay, let's go. And we ended up putting an ATM in our restaurant, and then I got a call from the Senate of Canada right afterwards saying like, hey, can we do a field trip to come see how the ATM works? And I was like, well, absolutely. And if you want, I could actually bring it to the floor of the Senate. They're like, you could do that? Amazing. We'll give you 2 hours to teach us how it all works. I was like, unbelievable. So, that snowballed and turned into something great. And that was like, that thing. But I will say, like, what the trigger was, I was an entrepreneur. I was building at the time. We had like a kind of a merch business, I guess you could say, doing custom wood iPhone cases called the Woody back in the day. And yeah, it was right after that. I
I feel
actually,
like I might have seen those.
yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people doing that. It turns out, yeah, it's a hot seller on Alibaba, and then you combine it with a laser, and you can make really awesome iPhone cases. So, the very first iPhone, my very first Bitcoin was not. I didn't buy it. I didn't mine it. I actually earned it by selling an iPhone case for half of a Bitcoin. So yeah, I wasn't given it. That was the earned route to my very first Bitcoin, which seems pretty awesome. Um, in retrospect. And then since then I've been also like, I was gifted all this knowledge via this individual. And then, I've been gifting the knowledge back and coupling that with gifting of Bitcoin to people and introducing them by showing them how it works. And I mean, I don't like to say it, but I don't know if there's anybody on the planet that's activated as many people individually in the flesh to wallets, than I have. It's been a long journey of setting people up, and I was at a conference in where was it the other day? Is it in Austin for Consensus? And someone came up to me and was like, Kyle, oh my God, you sold me my first Bitcoins at this dinner in Montreal, and like, thank you so much, it changed my whole life. I'm like, amazing, that's beautiful. I'm like, thank you for sharing that. And that's happened over a long time. And it's treated a bunch of friends and some not friends, just random strangers who I really believe in this technology, and that's technology for all. So I feel like instead of just giving, it's important to teach and show them. So because there's just this natural progression that you can't instantly become a master of something. You've got to start as the apprentice, or this student becomes the apprentice, becomes the mentor, becomes the master. And and that's through training and repetition and deep inquiry, that you kind of achieve that. And so one of my goals has been to welcome and invite people to come participate and understand this. And one of the things about our industry too is like there was such a greed motive and such a greed campaign around just trying to like number go up and value go up and hodl that the whole hodl mentality, in my opinion, doesn't really hasn't been too good. It's been good to turn like to picture Bitcoin as like just a commodity and like a savings instrument that will go up in value, but it misses like the greater purpose of it, which is it's digital money that can't be censored and is 100% inclusive. And that was really Satoshi's vision for Bitcoin, was a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And it's not so much that anymore, but it works. It works, and it's been going on for 13 years now, and it is stronger than ever. And I think as more and more people become aware, there's still this kind of needed transition, and or it'll happen when people just start actually using it, and as more communities start engaging and utilizing alternative currencies, for value exchange, we reduce the power of the centralized institutions and organizations day by day, until they're powerless. And you can look at like Blockbuster, or look at these other solutions. It's like, because when when Netflix came along, it didn't mean that like Blockbuster was like obsolete instantly, but it meant they were unnecessary. And that's the same thing about Bitcoin and with banks too. Having just come from the bank and like gone through that process, Bitcoin doesn't render them obsolete immediately, but it renders them unnecessary. Before, we needed banks in order to move money from one space to another in a short amount of time. If you were in person with someone, you could give them some cash. But with Bitcoin, now we have the ability to transfer value instantly across the entire planet in milliseconds. And it solved a bunch of the problems that were considered some of the holy grails of money. So just kind of wrap that there and just say like, this is why I really believe in this tech, and I love it. And and I'll also mention too, like another one of the hats that I wear is a company called Raze, which we founded a year ago at Consensus. And having been a 25-year kind of startup creator, innovator, we built a platform to help startups and creators and founders connect with funders and present, their offerings in a very expeditious manner and bring some order to the chaos that is fundraising. And so that's Raze, and we're built on the Web3 rails. Plane going by. We're built on the Web3 rails. We're built for tomorrow, but we're ready today for everybody. And it's been fantastic watching this company grow, because in the last year, we're a team of, gosh, probably almost like 10, 15 people now. And we've got amazing advisors and amazing partners, and it's just picking up strength. And it's just a testament to like the dedication that's required. Sometimes you'll have brilliant ideas and you can think that they can just instantly be kind of manifested, but to create something large, yeah, it takes patience and it takes diligence and it takes like consistent effort towards building it. You'll hear the stories about people like solving some great growth hack, or like there's a lot of people in the crypto industry who are considered like who have like almost deity kind of reputation, and really they just made a bet, and they put $1 million on Bitcoin when it was like $500, and now they look like the most brilliant people ever. But really, I mean, they made a good bet, and that's well done, congratulations.
Right. Yeah, it's really, really awesome to see what cryptocurrency is capable of in terms of the ability to transform somebody's wealth situation. I was going to ask you a couple things. The first, if you could explain just very basically to somebody that maybe is a beginner and not familiar with cryptocurrency or decentralization or anything like that, what is DeFi? What is the concept of DeFi, simply put? And how can people use DeFi to maybe grow their wealth or just have savings or as an investment? What it's like
Sure.
an example for somebody
Yes.
that's just getting started.
So like just to back up before getting right into the DeFi, like what is cryptocurrency and like what is Bitcoin? And Bitcoin is an alternative to the central banks, and it created this digital programmable money. And then on top of this technology is, we'll call it DeFi, decentralized finance. And what DeFi has done is it's taken a lot of the products that traditional banks, retail banks, and business banks would offer to their clients, and it's digitized them. So, you can go to the bank and loan them money, and they'll give you an interest rate. You have the opportunity to take your Bitcoin, go to a DeFi provider, and earn an interest rate. Only difference is, instead of trusting in the bank, you're trusting in code towards making that possible. Instead of, if you have $100,000 in Bitcoin, instead of selling, 50% of it to have $50,000, cash, to go fund an operation using DeFi, you can collateralize the $100,000 and borrow $50,000 against it. And once you pay back, and then go use that 50,000 to make 100,000, and then you pay back the 50,000 and you have all your Bitcoin. You never had to sell it. So, these are examples of DeFi, and there's a lot of them are yield generating, meaning they're earning you an interest rate, or by, you're putting your money to work, by helping others with it, basically matching, like, those who want to earn by being a depositor, and those who want to pay and borrow by being a borrower or a creditor. Um, yeah. So that's, like, in a nutshell, basically what DeFi is, and it's a huge threat to the existing. It's a new model. It's a new model for finance, and we're in the early days, but it's also governed by code, and it's open source. A lot of them are open source. The centralized ones that were kind of like hybrids, it's important to really understand the different, the services that you're using. There were services like Celsius and BlockFi, and I don't know, a bunch of other ones, that you could lend them your Bitcoin, and they would say you're going to get you'll lend them 1 Bitcoin, you're going to get 1.1 Bitcoin in 2 years time. Turns out, like, in the back end, you were giving them the money, they were pooling it, they were doing other things with it, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And that was, like, that's kind of like centralized digital finance. And we saw a bunch of good people get burned by believing in these, what some people would maybe call Ponzi schemes, but I don't necessarily jump to that kind of conclusion. But versus some of these DeFi ones that we're seeing now, where you're not actually needing to, like, be out of custody. You're just kind of locking it up. It's really governed by open source, audited, verified code. And it's creating new models for being able to engage in this borrowing and lending.
That's really exciting. So people can take that $50,000 that would have been just sitting in a savings account, not earning any interest, and put that into an exchange that is a decentralized finance exchange, and essentially lend on that, use it as collateral to lend other coins to other people that are trading. Is that
Yeah,
how it works?
that's like, you need liquidity. And so, like, if you have $50,000 in your bank, you like move it, I don't know, maybe through Coinbase into USDC or USDT into like a stable coin. And then there's lots of different options that you can kind of generate a yield. Some are lower risk, some are higher risk. There was kind of a tough story last year. The Luna protocol, the UST was an emerging like new stable coin that was a real threat. It was a really powerful stack and a really powerful tech. And there was one service on top of it called Anchor that was offering a 20% annual yield on your stable coin. So you're looking at your bank account, you're like, okay, I'm earning like 2% interest if I'm lucky, and then this one's offering 20. It's like a lot of money kind of came into it. um, and then they got attacked, and someone exploited kind of their code, and it was a very expensive attack that occurred. But what happened is UST was supposed to be UST was $1, but because the way the markets worked and because of the attack that was done, which involved an awful lot of money, they were able to depeg it and drive it practically to zero, and it just destroyed that whole market. So UST was what's called a synthetic stable coin. So there was no actual like reserve that was backing up all the assets in it, versus USDC and USDT are reserve backed. And one of the whole principles of this entire industry though is like it's called anti-fragility. And what that means is as exploits and as the cracks are witnessed, and UST, the entire thing that occurred, it was a crack. It was something was broken. And moving forward though, we learn from those mistakes, we heal, we harden, and get better. So that's one of like the kind of the ethos around this whole system too.
Yeah, this is fascinating what's going on and how we're just learning. And it reminds me a lot of when the internet was getting started in 2000, late 90s. There was a lot of fear. There were things that worked, there were things that didn't work. But ultimately, what I do 100% believe in is the technology, at the core level of blockchain and just cryptocurrency. And also, I believe in the core foundation of this model of a new way to manage our own finances. And I think it's awesome. So, another question that I wanted to ask you about was when it comes to Raze, who exactly is Raze for? And for all the listeners out there that might be entrepreneurs or starting something, how can they go about using Raze and making it work for the purpose that for which you created it?
Absolutely. So raise is for any founders that are like actively trying to raise capital for their projects, whether it's a small project or a very big project. Like we're in this age where you can do something pretty cool, like you can set up a Spreadshirt account and have some sweet designs and leverage drop shipping, create a really automated business that will deliver value out there. And it doesn't require like a huge amount of investment, but has a good opportunity to generate value. And so or you could be building a very large business, like for example Raze, where we're in our intention is to build the world's best fundraising platform, to connect founders and funders and build a community of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial partners, as well as accredited investors and large investor networks, and creating a space and a platform for there to be connection, evaluation, and participation in their businesses. So the way that Raise works is you come on through 2023. We've got pricing of $1,000 to join the platform. We onboard you. We make sure you've got all your documents in line. That you're really ready for a yes from an investor. And then we stand up a private offering page. So it's not you could think of it kind of like crowdfunding in terms of the way it looks, but it's private. And you'll get a link that you can, with a password on it, that you can share out to investor networks, and we can help you identify the different investors and, like, who the right segment is. There's definitely some wisdom transfer that comes with joining, and because we're like, I think we've got 65 clients right now that are kind of qualified in the pipeline, and 25 that have joined the platform. So we're interfacing with a lot of these. That's a lot of businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs, and we're getting to learn what's working and what's not, and also the different tips and tricks. And so we can do some knowledge transfer and some wisdom transfer, and, like, evaluate kind of emergent best practices, and see how we can kind of continuously improve the system. And ultimately, once your deal is live, you're going to get a link that you can share out to your investors. They can come, they can review your deal, they can book a meeting with you, the founder. We'll schedule a webinar for you to invite other investors to come in. We invite our investor network as well to review, to review your offering. And then, if an investor is ready to invest, they simply click invest. They log in, they verify their identity. They'll only need to do that once. So every time an investor gets verified, then they're in the system. And then after they've verified, they say how much they want to invest, sign the investment agreement, whether it's a subscription agreement, a SAFE, a SAF, a debt, a revenue share. There's many different types of instruments that you can raise capital on. And then after you've signed the agreement, then it comes up, how would you like to invest? ACH, wire transfer, or crypto. And so we facilitate using a stable coins or Ethereum or any EVM compatible chain, and we're adding support for Bitcoin and Doge and other main chains as well. And then you basically, the way crypto works is you're presented, like, with a MetaMask option or a wallet option that says confirm the transaction. You want to invest $50,000. All right, confirm. Money goes directly to the company. Raze never holds on to anybody's funds. And then an NFT gets issued in addition to the to the duly signed and executed agreement. And the NFT is a proof of investment, is what we call it. And it's not something to be sold or, like, bartered on a secondary market. It's a proof that you can say that you were an investor in Raze, or you were an investor in the Abundance podcast, or you were an investor in whatever great project it was that but it's like it's like a badge, basically, that says that you did that. And this is what we've built right now, and our intentions are to continue growing the investor community and to work with partners towards providing more valuable resources towards founders and to investors, as well as looking at, because there's just so much innovation happening too, that, like, within the field of fundraising, there's all sorts of there's new vehicles and new instruments and new strategies that can be applied. And we're actively looking at them, also looking at AI and how AI can help founders reduce some of the what might have seemed very daunting tasks, can be very simplified. A lot of outreach, there's a lot of automation that can be employed within your organization. We're in this incredible time right now where there is so much opportunity for creators and innovators to take a bold step towards not just talking about what you want to do, but actually doing it, and, like, and creating it and taking action and criticizing, the systems they don't like, by creating new systems that solve problems, fill gaps, and ultimately generate value. And why I love Raze and why I like this space that I'm in so much is it's all about, like, helping people create value, like, across their stakeholder networks. And like I'm a real believer in radical collaboration and, definitely not win-lose scenarios. Even beyond win-win, it's really win to the power of win scenarios. When people start collaborating and co-creating and moving beyond competition into almost co-opetition, we can create the conditions for exponential value creation. And this is like, which is apropos, because this is now we try to transition into abundant thinking and moving past like the debt-based slavery matrix model that has been so ruthlessly proselytized by our media and our politicians and our centralized corporate wannabe overlords, that these new models are coming about. And I encourage anybody who's like not doing what they love to really reconsider that. And if there's something you really want to be doing, like figure out a way to go do that and make it happen, because our time here is finite. Time is our only truly scarce resource, and the time is always now.
The time is always now.
Yes, sir.
When and how did you develop the abundance mindset? Because clearly you're operating from abundance. Did you always think and move this way, or was there a time or a process or something that caused you to come more into the realization of the abundance that
Well,
is
I
here
think
for
is
all of
like
us?
is it's like a personal recognition around like limitations, because like society wants to control and limit your belief systems. And I was told like, no, you can't do that. Like growing up in Ottawa, Canada, it's like, it's a government town, like, it might be liberal, but it's like conservative in terms of like, the possibility. And having spent a lot of time in California and like in the valley, and then all over as well, you realize that no, it's like, it's about just taking actions and creating and challenging yourselves, instead of like exploring all the reasons to say no to something. Like explore all the reasons why to say yes to something. Like exhaust all the yeses before you come to a no. um I think is what is like kind of a crucial tenet to it. And that, in order to achieve that, it required like, you know not making assumptions based on the words of others, and like not taking things personally when people like, try to kind of cut you down or call you out or even talk you up. And then like always do your best and then be impeccable with your words. The four agreements, like, one of the my guiding kind of principles in life. And so I wouldn't say it was like there was like a light switch kind of moment. Um, it's There's been a lot of lessons learned. There's been moments though, like, I feel like I've lost my mind a couple times. I've gone through like, some, wouldn't necessarily like say full death rebirth experiences, but there's definitely been like, some important lessons and experiences, that have really impacted me. And I'd say as well, there's like, there's plant medicines that kind of like, assisted with breaking through some of the blocks that were existing. And now it's like I don't need that stuff, and just kind of, operate as in an aligned force. And now I'm just living my life. It was just at the Independent National Convention in Austin, which was an incredible gathering. I met this one guy, Jonah Lyon, who explained like, the four pillars that he believes will like, lead to like heaven on earth. And one is aloha, which is the Hawaiian greeting, but it has intention of I come with love and I come with respect and I come with an open heart. So that was really good. And then this other Hawaiian saying, which is really powerful, which is called Ho'oponopono, which is an ancient Hawaiian kind of healing prayer that involves four lines, which are I'm sorry, please forgive me, I'm thankful, and I love you. And these are words that you can say to yourself, and you can also channel it on others, and you can say it to others as well, towards like, healing. But most importantly, it's to yourself. Like, we've all done things in our lives that we're not proud of, or that we might harbor some guilt or shame in. And to be able to say to yourself, I'm sorry, like, acknowledge what you did, and then say, please forgive me, and forgive yourself for that trauma, and release it. And then say, I'm thankful, be grateful for that trauma, for that experience, for everything that you are. And lastly, I love you, self love, like loving yourself, recognizing that, like this. And again, I said on the on the internal side, but it can also be applied outwardly, and towards healing relationships. And after this crazy experiment that we've been through for the last 3 years, a lot of people and families are divided, and healing is crucial at this moment, and Ho'oponopono has a very important part to play in that. So that's the second pillar. Third pillar is the 4 agreements. I briefly mentioned, but I'll go one more time. Be impeccable with your word. Don't make assumptions. Don't take anything personally. Always do your best. There's a fantastic book called The 4 Agreements. It's not very long. There's a subsequent book called The Mastery of Love that I recommend everybody reads. And then the 4th pillar is the 10 principles of Burning Man. So those are radical inclusion, gifting, decommodification, radical self-reliance, radical self-expression, communal effort, civic responsibility, leaving no trace, participation, and immediacy. And you can also look them up, but these are combined, these 4 pillars together can help you achieve an abundance mindset, lifestyle, peace within thyself, opening of thy third eye potentially, and really achieving a sense of I don't know, homeostasis, ecstasis potentially within your world. And as well, you might be, so if you're getting later in your life, like trying to find this, like a lot of, like my father, for example, like he's terrified of death, and it's because he hasn't found his kind of peace. Like, I'm not terrified of death. It's like, if it occurred, I would be like sad. It would be not something I want, but I'm at peace, as it is, because time is now. And it's like, learn from the past or yesterday, and kind of plan for the future or tomorrow, and kind of act in the now, in the present, but also live in the ether and the eternal, because like you said at the very beginning, this isn't our first time having a long form discussion. I feel like we've probably done this many, many times over the eons. And, this is the first time that in this turn of the wheel that our threads are weaving together.
Let's go down that rabbit hole for a second, down that road. I have been studying quantum physics and understanding that there is a thread that we have of events that can intertwine with the threads of others in ways that make it essential for us to achieve specific things within our destined path and our chosen ikigai, or reason for being. And I'm just curious as to your thoughts about manifestation and our ability to create new models, new paradigms, and just deliberate creation. What are your thoughts on deliberate creation? And also, do you recommend any good books or teachers for people that want to learn more about deliberate creation and manifestation?
Yeah, there was an interesting book that was recommended to me. It was called Seth Speaks, and it was a book that was entirely written by an interdimensional being channeled through this woman. I forget her name, but it was fascinating, just fascinating. Talks all about personalities, and the different personalities, and the different paths that we can achieve, and the 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 game, or the experience of our various personalities and how we're going to achieve them. And then, I mean, it's like, you can also kin it to, like, moving past that one, which, if you're interested, check it out. If not, no worries. Is like glass half full, glass half empty. It's a perspective thing. It's like, if we, and this has been something that's been tapping into my kind of aura a lot these days, is like, instead, like, back when I was like, challenging the 9/11 narrative and the 7/7 and the bogus wars, and even most recently the whole pandemic and everything that was going on there. It was like shining so much light. And this was like, Alex Jones was really good at this. He's like kind of always like looking in the darkness, and like, all the bad things that are out there, and like, all the corruption and the conspiracies, of people committing crimes in unison together for profit or purpose or power. um and if we spend so much of our attention like focusing on that, of what we don't want to see, like, we're going to just get that, because we're giving it our energy, we're giving it that, versus this idea of like criticizing by creating. Like, okay, like, not knowledge is power, understanding everything is great. And I feel like a lot of people have had a crash course in the reality of the world, and a lot of people are still kind of, maybe sleepy, or just in their awakening journey. um but if we focus too much of our energy on the negative, we're just going to achieve the negative. And if we focus our energy on the positive, we discuss what it is that we want to achieve and where we want to go, what our goals are. And we like, you set those dream boards, you set those manifestation parameters around knowing what you want and focusing on that. And, the power of that is something real. And it's like, it's a mindset shift. It's saying like, I can versus I can't. And, it's like, really, like, never say to yourself like, I am not worthy, or I am incapable, or I am stupid, or I am, like, all these different things. It's like blasphemous, because at the core you are. And, instead, put positive energy. I can do it. I am ready. I am willing. I am able. I am qualified. I am. um so that's where at the core, like, I would say that manifestation comes from. And then it's also like, it's a matter of like tempered reason and critical thinking as well around things. And, we can get very excited about the world of the possibility, and you can see something clearly in yourself, and you might be able to see it out there. And especially as for a lot of creatives, like, you can see this wonderful world of possibilities. But, like, you know coming back to like center, like, taking a moment and then reflecting on it. And also looking for, I would also say, like, looking, I mean, like, listening, keeping your eyes open, keeping your ears open for signs, for omens, etc. Like, and towards the universe has a wonderful way of um kind of giving you signals. Um, Now, that doesn't mean you should like see every bird and be like, "Oh my God, what does that bird mean to me?" But, like, you'll know when you see it. There's kind of power in that, I would say. That's like my little short and slice on manifestation.
I
Yeah.
love that. And I like that you mentioned paying attention to the signs and the signals and the symbols, not going too deep into it to where we're out of touch with the present reality and the tangible, but to the point where we're just listening to, like you said, nature, looking at certain colors, looking at repeating numbers and patterns while I'm having a certain thought or while I'm feeling really good about creating a new business or something, and then
Mm-hmm.
seeing 888 or 777.
Eleven,
Look,
11.
11, 11, 11, 11, 11. Look at
Oh,
that
look,
as a
11s,
sign.
11s are everywhere.
They're all over the place.
They're everywhere.
Right. So paying attention to those signs and having the discernment to understand when they're connected to our feelings, because this is a feeling universe that we live in. And I'm learning more and more about the importance of feeling good, just you talked a lot about things we can do to feel good within ourselves. You talked a lot about some great affirmations and things people can do to be in a good feeling place within ourselves, because that's where it starts, and then we can feel good about other people. But feeling good and being happy and joyful really does transform every single thing. Transforms the ideas that we have, the words, the actions we decide to take, the way we take care of ourselves, the way we view others, and our ability to help the world. And our ideas get bigger when our love for self is big as well. And I have a saying, love people. I like to paint murals all over the world that say love people, just to remind folks that every great thing that we want to happen is going to involve other people. Every single dollar we want to earn is going to come from somewhere else. And it's going to be because we provided value to other people. So I always remind myself of that, and try to remind others through my actions and my being that we got to be all about the love, and we got to be all about the thinking of things in positive terms, thinking of the best that can happen, thinking of the best possible outcome, and giving people the benefit of the doubt, giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt, and then taking those inspired actions, like you said, because that is the key. Good feeling with the inspired action equals success, manifestation.
Absolutely. Don't shortchange yourself either. Like, don't think like, when, like, really look, like, challenge yourself to find the true ideal outcomes. Like, what is like the big ideal outcome that you want to achieve? Like, what is really the goal? And like, look at trying to get there, as opposed to just necessarily like painting your goal as like, maybe just a little incremental, like, one little positive thing. And it's like, because you might miss that great opportunity. And when you see the signs, like, trust in them. Like, one of my good mentors is Tim Draper. And boy, he is amazing. And he's got this, if you go to storyfile.com/Tim Draper, you can ask Tim questions, and it is a wealth of knowledge. He sat down for 4 days and recorded just an unbelievable amount of contact and content and life advice. And the questions are fantastic. And maybe some of them might be a little bit dated, but honestly, it's like, for any entrepreneur, I would say go. It's like having the opportunity to hang out with Tim Draper and ask him questions for 4 hours or 8 hours or however 16 hours, however long it is. But it's really, really valuable. And one of the life advice that he has, just say yes. And it's like, just say yes. If you can, say yes to things. And I mean, I invite people all the time to all sorts of stuff, and I get a lot of, like, no's, and that's fine. I mean, but on the chance that they say yes, great. Let's, like, let's go. You're welcome. You're invited. And don't take it personally, but it's like, if it does happen, great. And and when you're presented with those opportunities to say yes, like, explore. And you know and then be conscious of dangers in the world, but also be conscious of fear. And when people are trying to utilize or use fear as a method to control your behavior, control, your actions, uh, that is the dark side, or that is, like, the shadow. Generally, using the fear to implement that. Be careful of danger, though, and be prepared for danger, when it occurs, and recognize that should danger occur, it's not the time to get scared. It's the time for action. It's time for to stand into your power, into your divine masculine or your divine feminine, and stand into your power and protect, yourself, your children, your family, your elders, civilization. And this is our great kind of calling right now. Is, we there's always going to be this, this duopoly of light energy and night energy. And there will always be those who, you know seek to deceive, and, sow chaos, and and use fear as a control mechanism. And as a, I don't know, as a light worker, or as an awakened, like, abundance believer in the power of ourselves and our community and our collective and our civilization. Just be conscious, but also be ready to stand up and stand into your full power. Be courageous. Speak your mind. Speak your truths, and don't let your ego kind of get in the way, because the ego is, like, one of the main battlefields that all people go through. And it's not something that dies quietly. Okay.
That's deep. One of my favorite teachers on the ego is Eckhart Tolle, or Eckhart Tolle, some people
Yeah,
say.
Eckhart.
Yeah, The Power of Now. It's a great book for anybody that wants to read more about how to manage the ego and essentially forget about it and just be. It's a practice. It's a work in progress, but it's really great to understand that there is this thinking version of ourselves. It's maybe not even necessarily all of who we really want to be, but it's just who we think we might need to be in all these different situations. And it's really interesting. But yeah, I'm glad you touched on that. I wanted to ask you to give one piece of advice to all of our listeners who are working on starting something big. You know, you gave a lot of really great advice, but specifically, it could be an entrepreneur, artist, a creative working on a big project. Maybe we got some young athletes getting ready for a big game. But just when it comes to mindset and perseverance and preparing to overcome challenges and create what it is that we have that is that big vision. Because, like you said, it does take a lot. It takes a lot of work. It takes time. What's one piece of advice you can give to that aspiring creator as they're on their journey to help them manifest abundance?
I'll give you more than one piece. So,
Abundance alert.
Aloha, Ho'oponopono, the 4 agreements, the 10 principles of Burning Man. Become incredibly familiar with all of them. Write it all out. Write it out. Write it out. Like emblazon that into your mind. Like, understand that, especially as a creator, be impeccable with your words. That is just the number one. Just the one of many, but that one is really important. As you move forward. For those who are creating, don't try to force things. Like, do not, don't try to push the square peg in the round hole. If the energy is saying no to something, don't just stop. It's okay to fail. It's not okay to not try. Well, it's not, it's okay, but it's not. If you don't try, you're not going to fail, or you're definitely not going to succeed if you don't try. So try, test, fail, learn, improve. Recognize you can always do things better. There's always room for improvement. Like always, always, always. And just understand that. Understand feedback loops. Seek critical feedback. Seek positive feedback. Beware of negative feedback. Understand the words of others. Some people just shit talk things. Some people want to knock you down. Some people want to hype you up. We want to use you, etc. But just again, come back to those. When you're seeking to engage with others, understand what they want to achieve, where their life path or what they're passionate about or where their milestones are. And instead of asking how can I help you? Or creating this expectation of instead ask, what are some of the milestones you're working on? And have them talk about where they're planning on going. And you might be able to say, oh, you know what? There's a couple areas that, I'd be interested or I could potentially offer or help. And again, and then the other one is understand that expectations are the blueprints for disappointment. So when you set an expectation with someone that you're gonna for example, okay, we're gonna do a podcast at 4 o'clock on Monday here. And if I don't show up, there's disappointment. You committed to that, and if you don't show up, it's there. The same with saying you're gonna do something and then you don't do it. Don't just better to say no than to say yes and then fail, because there's you're basically being bad with your words, and you're setting an expectation that's going to lead to disappointment. So just be honest, be straight, and recognize that the power is within you, and kind of trust your gut and learn and learn and learn and recognize it's a journey. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. For us to and enjoying the journey and being vulnerable and being open and exploring and saying yes and, reaching out and connecting. I invite you to connect with me. I can't make any promises that I can properly connect and drop in with every person out there, but if you're feeling really called, like, hey, reach out. If you want to join Raze and come on board, like, hey, that's an easy way to connect. So please, would love to review and assist, and understand that that's one of my milestones right now is building out the world's best fundraising platform. So if you're raising capital and you want to, like, join and help me on my journey, this is what I'm doing, and I want to help you on your journey. So it's like there's symbiosis, there's a natural fit there. Yeah, so that's some advice for all of you beautiful people out there. Do with it what you will.
That was an abundance alert, and we appreciate it. No, the listeners appreciate it. Well, I'm very grateful. We've talked about a lot of topics. I hope everybody listening is taking notes. You might have to replay this episode and run it back. But I've been very blessed and grateful to meet you, Kyle. I'm excited for many more conversations with you and just many more exciting opportunities to build and create things that can uplift and inspire other people as well as us. Because it's I like that you said win to the power of. I mean, you said so many brilliant things, but win to the power of, that's like a whole concept that,
Win to the power of win, like win to the winth
yeah,
power.
yeah, just an
Like
abundant wins.
imagine we're playing a game, and it's like, you could think of the game of life like Monopoly. Monopoly is a terrible game. It's a win-lose game. It's just terrible. It's one of the worst games of all time. But when imagine you played Monopoly with a different set of rules, where you're like, okay, I'm gonna roll the dice, and based on this dice roll, how can we, like, maybe I rolled an 8. It's like, well, if I moved 5, I'd be on there. And if you moved 3, you'd be there. And like this would maximize. Like, think about changing the nature of the game. Think about all the different action cards in your life and think about all the different action cards in other people's lives. And if we share our action cards with others and allow them to see some of the cards we're holding on to, it comes with some trust, being able to do that. But once that trust is established, that rapport is established, and you can show your cards, others can't play your cards for you, but they can be aware and they can make suggestions, and you can radically collaborate to achieve whatever purpose, mission, abundance, reality that you want to do. And I have a recommendation, only one recommendation from this podcast, and of who the next guest should be. And his name is Joseph Funke, and I will introduce you. And he plays a game and facilitates a game called Fresh Biz that was one of my pivotal moments in abundance thinking. Now that I reflect, that was one of the moments in my life when all of a sudden it's like, the rules are up for interpretation.
I love that. So yeah, we gotta meet Joseph for sure and see if we can get him on the Abundance Universe podcast.
He would love to be.
Awesome.
Yeah, he'd love to be. I can't play that card for him, but I will invite him to do it.
Yeah, we'll at least extend the invitation. We'll see if we can get the
Absolutely.
combo started.
I mean, that's what you can do. It's like Russell Brand said this in a stand-up show the other day when I went and saw him. It was like, I don't like when people tell me what I have to do. When you tell me I have to do something, I'm gonna say, fuck off. I don't want to do that. You tell me I have to do this, fuck off. First instinct. But you say, I'm interested in doing this, or I invite you to learn more, or would you be interested in partnering to achieve this? It's like, just present the invitation versus the declaration. So just be mindful about the words that you use when, when trying to shape reality or manifest. Much more positive and powerful to invite people into your movement as opposed to tell people they must do it or else. That type of attitude, that's what got us into a lot of this trouble, is you must do this type of action versus I invite you, or would you be interested, or just like creating that space for people to say no and like respecting the no. That's what I liked about Europe so much, is they're very clear. They're very sensible. They're like, no, not interested. Like versus like, California, I found that a lot of people will just say yes all the time to everything, but then we've got this loop of expectations that break down. Versus like, the Swiss, very like if they say yes, the Europeans, they say yes, we're gonna do something. In general, they get it done. Like, they recognize that,
There's
that
less
value.
shame around the no. I
There's
feel like
no
we have
shame around the
shame
no.
around the no here sometimes, and then sometimes people just flake. There's no shame on the flake, but there's shame around the no, which is crazy. It's like backwards logic.
Right? Just say no.
Yeah.
Like I'm not interested. It's nothing personal. It's just I'm not interested. It doesn't fit within
Yeah.
within like, with what I want to do,
Right.
and or what I feel drawn to do, or it's not saying it's okay to say no. And you also don't have to explain yourselves around things either. Like, I feel like we're in this like, this very like, debate driven society where it's like if you believe something, like, if you didn't take the job, you don't have to explain to everybody why you didn't do it. It's like, it's fine. Like, you can just trust in yourself and your knowledge of doing that. Same with if you took it, you don't have to convince everybody else to do it. It's like, whatever. It's like, you can just be comfortable. If you believe the earth is flat, that's fine. That's like, that's an interpretation. Like, that's fine. Like, you don't have to be out there trying to convince other people about it. If you believe Bitcoin is the one coin to rule them all, like, great. But if you start forcing it on me or telling me that this is the only way to do, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, fuck off. And like, don't like it when like, you push like, absolutes or you musts on people. So just like, these are, but, you know, be happy, be comfortable, be fearless, be truthful, be gentle, and and live every day like it's the best day ever. One of my favorite artists, his name's Sergei Gordienko. We're constantly being confused. Like it's happens every event I go to. It's like, Sergey, all right, great to see you. I'm not Sergey. And he gets the same thing on my side. So, but his the do what you love artist, and all he makes this beautiful artwork that just says do what you love, and it's like, it's trying to inspire this, this vibration of doing what you love. And if you don't love what you're doing, like, change it, because time is finite, and well, theoretically, um, and let's make the most of our time. And sometimes like the tough tasks that we have to do, like the boring, the mundane, like whatever, it's like meditative. Like, when you have to clean up the house, do the dishes, like whatever, enjoy that time.
Yeah, learn to love it. Learn to love those
Learn to
times. Learn to
love it.
love those peaceful moments. Because there's always gonna be some moment when be flight delayed, stuck in an airport in Dubai or somewhere for 2 days or something,
It's like,
eating
oh,
airport
this is
food,
the worst. I'm gonna go check
wishing I
into
was
this
just at the
hotel and
house. Yeah, it's just like I wish I was at home. It's like there's gonna be some situation where we're just gonna be like, man, it'd be nice to just be at home doing dishes right now.
yeah,
So we got to keep in mind when we have to be at home doing dishes. Let's be
yeah.
grateful for these
Well,
moments. This is a peaceful
when the
moment.
university and when the universe throws you a curveball too, lean into it. Like, just adjust your swing.
Right.
And like, yeah, being stuck in Dubai for 2 extra days, like, oh, what an opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Look at it as an opportunity, right? And make the
absolutely.
most of it. And it's like, am I stuck here or was I blessed with the opportunity to be here? That's a whole shift that it took me a while to get to that automatically, but I've learned to just automatically default to the most positive, automatically default to the most abundant, automatically default to everything's going to be okay. We're going to figure it out. Even the darkest of scenarios in life circumstances get happier. It's like, hey, it can't get much worse. And if it does, we'll figure it out anyway.
Right.
But let's plan on it getting better. I think it's actually going to get better. I think things are getting better right now. I'm
Oh
starting to
yeah,
feel better just saying better.
absolutely.
And then we start
We
a
are on the
whole
verge of a
cycle.
golden age here.
Right. We start a whole cycle in a tidal wave of abundance and positivity and gratitude. But it starts with something that you said is very key, which is speaking. As the tongue speaketh, so shall it create. So
Hmm.
we have to use our words wisely and speak positivity into ourselves and into others and speak what we want to create, knowing when to communicate and ask others for cooperation and collaboration, Love that you touched on that. This is not a competitive universe or world. We were all put here to help each other. Let's just communicate and see how we can align and create wins to the nth power. Well, I want to get ready to wrap this up. Is there anything that you want to say before we kind of let everyone go? And also, I would love for you to share your social media, where people can follow you and where people can find out more about Raze if they do want to get involved. Just remind folks. And did any last minute housekeeping items or announcements that you want to mention, please feel free to announce anything you want.
Sure. Very grateful. Yeah, so if you want to connect with myself, I'm on Twitter at Kyle Kemper. I'm on LinkedIn, Kyle Kemper. I'm on Instagram at Kyle JJ Kemper. I don't really use the gram so much. I'm on Patreon at Kyle Kemper as well. If my words have touched you, or you want to show gratitude my way, please, I invite you to become a patron and support.
So, Kyle, some Patreon tips. Let's go. Show some love. He's dropping a
Just
lot of blessings
pa-
on us. Show some
just
love on that Patreon.
pass it forward, and just try and just to create. And I have a family full of children, and doing my best to do the best I can. And if you're interested in Raze, obviously that's another way we can engage and collaborate. It's raze.finance, RAZE.finance. All the information is there. And in terms of any additional, I'm going to be this is probably going to be a timeless podcast, but in a timely fashion. We've got the Bitcoin conference happening, this weekend. RFK Jr. is going to be launching his campaign. And like I mentioned before, I'm very optimistic about him. I see a man of great integrity who is impeccable with his words, who is a beacon of light, and I'm honored to be able to support and participate in that. And I think one of his campaign slogans, or one of the slogans that really resonates deeply with me, is called "Heal the Divide," and I think that's more important than ever, especially as we're dealing with this politics arena, which has become like a bad thing. A lot of people like, I stay out of politics. Like, I just stay out of politics. And it's like, that's literally what they want you to do, because politics is about being an engaged, civically responsible individual. It's not about like being a prostitute for the blue or the red party, or needing to pick fights and yell at people and chant over people. Like, no. It's about being engaged in civic discourse and civic responsibility. And so I encourage people to to participate, and I invite you to participate in this new radical experiment of unity and participation in a new path forward. That is, in my opinion, like integral and grounded in honor. And there is one man with RFK Jr., but it's more than a man. This is a message of critical thinking and health and healing and sense making, and and unity versus just attacking and win lose. This is this win power kind of opportunity. And I don't think he knows exactly where this is going. I certainly don't know exactly where this is going, but it's not necessarily about the destination. It's going to be about the journey. And having been part of the Ron Paul campaign back in 2008 and 2012, I wasn't actively on it, but I was part of this amazing community that was just relentlessly censored and subjugated. And then to watch the Trump kind of campaign, and watch the energy that it got, and ultimately succeeded as the underdog. And now for Kennedy, who's, in my opinion, like one of the most qualified people on the planet for the job that he's going after, to step into this. I think let's manifest it, is my kind of my kind of attitude on that. And but if it's not, if it doesn't resonate with you, like that's all good too. Like it's all good. If you like the other guys, like it's all good. Like, you know, it's not it's like your free will and respect for others' opinions is just crucial. So that's as it's all kind of say. And I just want to say, brother, it's been such a pleasure. Really, this has been almost a meditative, like 90-minute journey that we've gone on here. And I'm so grateful, and it's such a pleasure. And keep on shining, brother.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Definitely feel like we've been connected through many generations and dimensions of souls. And I'm excited to see where our friendship goes in this reality, in this realm. I want to wish
Come to
you,
Miami this Friday. If you can, you're
I
invited.
want to wish you the best. I appreciate that. And we'll talk after this. I want to wish you the best, the absolute best in life, in business. Really love what you're doing with Raze. Really believe in it. Believe in it. I love what you're doing, and I support everything that you are and that you've created and that you're going to be creating. So thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for shining your light. This has been the Abundance Universe podcast. I want to thank all of you for listening, for joining us, for being who you are. You all please continue to shine your light and love more abundantly. We'll see you next time.